On June 3, for the very first time in history, NATO held a formal Ukraine NATO Council meeting inside Kyiv itself. 32 ambassadors stood in a city that Russia has been trying to bring to its knees for 51 months. But what Zelensky said at the press conference after that meeting was even more significant than the symbolism of the meeting itself. He said Ukraine is, in his words, in the queue of wars because Iran is now number one for the United States. He revealed that monthly Patriot missile deliveries to Ukraine had been cut several times over, not because of money, but because of the conflict in the Middle East. And he said he is ready for direct negotiations with Putin. Tonight, we break down the most important things Zelensky said and what they tell us about where this war is really heading. Here is what we are going to cover in the next 7 minutes. We will break down Zelensky's three-part press conference statement in detail, including his Patriot missile shortage revelation, his extraordinary comment about being in the queue behind Iran, and his offer of direct talks with Putin. We will look at what all 32 NATO ambassadors visiting Kyiv actually means for alliance commitment. We will examine what foreign policy and foreign affairs are saying about Ukraine's growing confidence and Russia's fear of ending the war. We will cover the IAEA's nuclear safety warning from Zaporizhzhya for the 17th time. And we will explain why this moment may be a genuine inflection point for the war. Stay with us. The story unfolds over a day of extraordinary diplomatic density. On June 3 at 1534, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte arrived in Kyiv for what he described as an important visit, the first time a NATO-Ukraine Council meeting had ever taken place on Ukrainian soil. He posted directly from the scene, stating that the visit sent a strong message of the enduring bond between NATO and Ukraine, and that NATO's support is unshaken. All 32 NATO ambassadors were present. They visited Lukyanivka in Kyiv, where, according to posts from at NATO, they witnessed the devastation caused by Russian drone and missile strikes from only days earlier. NATO's Secretary-General added directly, "Russia is terrorizing the population, and our resolve in defending ourselves and, in his words, in the queue of wars." In the third part, Zelensky made news by stating he is ready for direct negotiations with Putin to end this war, adding that Ukraine's battlefield progress, including deep strike capabilities reaching 1,100 kilometers, gives Ukraine the strength to negotiate from a position of equality. Separately, Zelensky spoke with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on June 3 and coordinated on bringing Europe's voice into any future diplomatic process, while also thanking the UK for new sanctions targeting Russian cryptocurrency schemes. The first question many viewers are asking is, does Zelensky's offer of direct talks with Putin represent a genuine diplomatic shift, or is it political positioning? The short answer is that the context matters enormously. Zelensky framed this offer not as a concession, but as a statement of confidence. He specifically said that Ukraine's battlefield progress, particularly its deep strike capability now reaching 1,100 kilometers, gives Ukraine the strength to negotiate as an equal. Foreign Policy's analysis adds important supporting data here, noting that thanks in part to Ukraine's strike campaign, alongside high Russian casualties and domestic discontent in Russia, Ukraine appears more confident that it can end the war on favorable terms. This is a very different diplomatic posture from a country seeking a ceasefire from weakness. A second pressing question is, why does NATO holding a meeting inside Kyiv matter beyond the symbolism? On that front, the significance is both institutional and psychological. Zelensky himself noted that all 32 allied countries were present at the Ukraine NATO Council after Russia tried to squeeze partners out of the country and intimidate embassies. The message, according to Zelensky UA, was crystal clear: Ukraine should be supported more, especially in anti-ballistic capabilities. Foreign Affairs adds a sobering analytical dimension, with Celeste Wallander arguing that the key to deterring Moscow lies not at the top of the escalation ladder where nuclear weapons are in play, but on its lower rungs, conventional weapons. This directly connects to Zelensky's urgent call for more Patriot interceptors. Meanwhile, the IAEA's report of the 17th power outage at Zaporizhzhya nuclear plant caused by a Ukrainian drone strike on a substation serves as a constant reminder of the catastrophic risk hovering over this entire conflict. Does Zelensky's offer to negotiate directly with Putin represent a genuine change in Ukraine's position, or is it a strategic public relations move? Foreign policy analysis suggests Ukraine is currently the most confident it has been about ending the war on favorable terms, given its deep strike progress and Russian battlefield casualties. This may suggest Zelensky's negotiation offer is a position of strength rather than desperation, designed to show Western partners that Ukraine is reasonable while maintaining battlefield advantage as leverage. Why does the first NATO-Ukraine Council meeting inside Kyiv matter beyond the symbolism? The meeting sends a concrete signal to Russia that Allied commitment to Ukraine is not wavering despite the Iran war consuming U.S. attention. It also creates institutional pressure for concrete deliverables: new Pearl contributions, Patriot interceptor acceleration, and European autonomous anti-ballistic development that have operational military value beyond the photo opportunity. In Ukraine itself, the NATO meeting inside Kyiv carries enormous significance for ordinary citizens who have lived under missile and drone attacks for 51 months. An Applebaum posted video from earlier that same day showing Ukrainian aircraft conducting strikes near the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, demonstrating that Ukraine's capacity to project force deep into Russian territory has not diminished, and that the war has consequences reaching to the heart of Russia's economic showcase events. For NATO allies in Europe broadly, the meeting signals that alliance commitment to Ukraine is being maintained despite the Iran war reshaping U.S. strategic attention. EU accession talks between Ukraine, Moldova, and the EU also formally advanced on June 4, with all EU members agreeing to open the first cluster of accession discussions. This dual-track NATO support plus EU membership path represents Ukraine's most institutionally secure position since the war began. For Russia, the picture described by foreign affairs analysts is deeply uncomfortable. According to their analysis, ending the war now would produce economic, social, and political upheaval inside Russia, a scenario the Kremlin fears more than continuation. This framing suggests Putin may have strategic incentives to prolong the conflict that go beyond ideology or territorial ambition. For the United States, Zelensky's public admission that Ukraine is in the queue of wars behind Iran creates a political and moral accountability moment. The Patriot missile shortage caused directly by diverting supply to the Middle East puts a concrete face on the resource competition between America's two active war theaters. Moldova was also present at the Atlantic Council on June 3, with Moldovan parliamentarians and their ambassador pressing for stronger EU and US partnerships to bolster democratic resilience, underscoring that Ukraine's war has a wider democratic spillover effect across the region. To be fair, there are serious analysts and policymakers who believe the diplomatic momentum around Ukraine may be more fragile than the Kyiv summit suggests. The strongest version of the skeptical argument is this: NATO symbolism inside Kyiv, however powerful, does not substitute for the concrete military hardware that Ukraine needs and is not receiving in sufficient quantities. Zelensky himself made this point most honestly of all. He acknowledged that new Patriot systems ordered in 2025 will not be delivered until approximately 2030. An alliance that can hold meetings in Kyiv but cannot fill Ukraine's Patriot missile queue in time to matter on the 2026 battlefield may be offering moral support without strategic substance. There is also a serious argument made implicitly by foreign affairs that the logic of this war is deeply entangled with Russia's domestic politics in ways that make any deal highly unstable. If ending the war on terms Ukraine can accept would produce upheaval inside Russia, Putin has every incentive to keep the conflict alive, and no NATO summit changes that underlying calculus. Some analysts also note that Zelensky's offer of direct talks with Putin may reflect Ukrainian battlefield anxiety as much as confidence, and that the framing of strength may be as much diplomatic theater as operational reality. Here is the kicker Zelensky gave us in plain language: he is ready to negotiate with Putin directly. He has the battlefield strength to do it. But the United States, the one power that can most force Putin toward a settlement, is currently focused on another war. Ukraine is in the queue. And the queue has no guaranteed end date. Drop your honest assessment in the comments. Do you think direct Zelensky-Putin talks can actually end this war, and should the US be doing more right now to make that happen? We read every comment.